such a busy day ahead. I've got so much to do. Oh, hang on. Someone's airing their dirty linen on Facebook. Bugger, can't do anything now until I read all 8,763 comments.
Put your feelings aside, give that wild side a try. I'm not that girl.
You've all done it, you know you have. G'day, I'm Sharon Leanna, rolling out my weekly dose of unapologetic candidness. If you want to skip the sugar-coated spiels for my take on why procrastination is a habit we can all break. Keep watching right till the end or you never know what hidden gems you may miss. Stop damn procrastinating whether to hit that subscribe button and hit it right now, and let's get this show happening. We've all woken up with good intentions for a productive day ahead, but then the mind starts ticking over. Instead of getting in and getting shit done, we become overwhelmed. We look out into the vastness that lay before us instead of taking each task as it comes. We begin to overthink and stuff-arsing around the negative thoughts creep in. Rather than being productive in our deliverance, we let the doubt slide in on our capabilities. The fear that we cannot live up to the expectations we have in our head. The high standards we have for ourselves. This then leads to stress. Perfectionism and anxiety often go hand in hand with procrastination. We find ourselves slipping into a depression spiral when things seem too unachievable, unattainable. Sometimes we waste so much precious time focusing on the things we already know how to do rather than learning more about the things that we don't. Every one of us are different and we all handle perfectionism stress differently. But for most, our go-to is avoidance by occupying our mind elsewhere. Minimizing digital distractions can be a great way to start. How often do you have a million things to do, but rather than begin, you pick up your phone and start mindlessly scrolling? Avoidance at its finest. Because we all know that scrolling social media is the biggest distraction ever. Yet we still do it. I find when I myself get in this state of mind, I just have to suck it up, get off my ass, get in there and get my hands dirty. I always think about how good it's going to feel to know that I actually got through a productive day. That feeling of knowing I can then allow myself to breathe and spend time on the things I'd rather be doing. Sometimes we cheat ourselves of real growth by focusing on the reward, the prize that comes after, without any real effort. So rather than going after that payday by bringing whatever is necessary to the table to achieve it, we talk ourselves out of the task, assuming it's beyond our capabilities, or in fact, we do not deserve it. I've also learned if I start something, I have to keep chipping away at it. Because if I take a break, I know that that's it. I'm done. Getting myself back on task, finishing something I've left incomplete, I find more a personal challenge than beginning in the first place. Give me a boom if this is you too. For some people, breaking each undertaking into smaller steps is more ideal. Getting a little done at a time, it's about finding what works for us. But whatever our modus operandi, the most important thing is getting down to it. Lists can be a great way of setting yourself in a pattern of following through. A habit, a daily ritual. Leave the phone on the bedside table, get up and start crossing those to-dos off the list. Knowing that once that list is fulfilled, you can scroll to your heart's content. Getting to the core of what's holding us back can be useful in pushing us to take action. If it's perfectionism at work, getting our bloody head around the fact that no one on this earth is perfect certainly may help. Mistakes are how we become better, how we learn, how we grow. If we make zero mistakes, are we even really trying to better ourselves? Are we actually challenging ourselves? Perfection is an unrealistic ideal, and done is better than perfect. Fuck-assing around and letting OCD and perfectionism stress override our determination. Rather than school of life practice and delivery will never see us go far. Procrastination is a habit we allow ourselves to slip into to relieve ourselves of worries. Think about it. When you're in a fabulous mood, you take things on the chin with a spring in your step. When our brain can't take all the woes life throws our way, we look for distractions. Stress leads to avoidance. Avoidance postpones rewards. You're never going to get rid of stress because let's face it, life is fucking stressful. There is always going to be one thing or another. One of the best ways to stop procrastinating is to front up to and acknowledge the stress. Take a moment to breathe in peace, breathe out love, calm your mind, then take charge. It's taken many, many years for myself to stop being a perfectionist, to overcome perfectionism. I would have these massive goals, would be determined to fulfill each and every one of them. Then as soon as I began, my mind demon, overthinking and procrastination would trip me up. My perception of my own likelihood for success and the stresses of life intervening would see me overestimate the difficulty of what it would take to get the job done. Sometimes laziness took a hand in that too, because I didn't want to commit to the action plan it would take in completing the work. Fact is, even the best of us can be lazy mofos if our motivation is lacking. Sometimes we overthink what it's going to take, other times we oversimplify, then hypothetically shoot ourselves in the ass when it comes to putting ourselves to work, because we surmise we've bitten off more than we can chew. When we overthink, it's the assumption, the perception that it's all too hard, even when that may not even be the case. Merely a supposition that it may be. Our willpower becomes depleted because we fear the time and effort, our inability to fulfill what's essential for completion. But then when in our minds what is necessary to complete our mission is perceived easier than the actuality, we will put it on the back burner, shelved right there with unimportant, with a she'll be right mate, I'll get to it later attitude that can leave us right royally rooted. So how do we quit the mind obstruction that is procrastination? We get ourselves moving, we begin, that's how. No matter how big or small it seems, because once we begin, odds are most of us won't stop till we are done. Once we get into the flow, we will find our rhythm and it will all start to come together. Taking action, having an action plan is the very first step. Then actually acting on that sequence will lead to satisfaction. Like with anything, the first step is the hardest. Once we begin, we find walking that path to completion so much easier, because we are no longer standing still with our thoughts, our fears, to become more productive. The more we practice self-discipline and the bigger push we give ourselves to begin, the more accomplished we shall feel as things get done in succession. Practice will make us as perfect as one can get, but procrastination will lead us in the opposite direction, which will then lead to disappointment and guilt. We often do anything to avoid letting others down, but seldom have qualms about letting ourselves down. The only way to win the battle against procrastination is to make breaking the practice our number one priority. Only we can break those customs ourselves by pushing ourselves when necessary. No amount of self-help spiels or other people can do it for us. Only we hold the power within to motivate ourselves enough each day. Sometimes we procrastinate longer over things we have to do than it would actually take to bloody do them. We can become trapped in that spiral of procrastination that whirs out of control, to the point we begin procrastinating over things we know we can do effortlessly. We have these endless unfinished resolutions mounting, which then enhances the guilt, the anger, the infuriated emotions of letdown. Why do so many of us have the predisposition of postponement, yet we rarely set focus to the fulfillment of completion? We sometimes sit in the cesspool of deliberation whilst everything around us self-destructs and goes to shit. Why? Because we deem ourselves powerless in the push necessary to face unpleasant things, instead of getting them over and done with, putting them behind us. When we have a lot weighing us down, we seldom comprehend that every little thing we get out of the way is one less thing we have to worry, stress about. But rather we sink deeper into our own despair and frustration for the mounting incompletions. We procrastinate over things that absolutely are robbing us of achieving our goals. Our procrastination is nothing more than self-sabotaging habits we need to break. Unless we wake up to what's at stake, what we are potentially denying ourselves of through procrastination, perfectionism, and the fear of not living up to the vision we have of ourselves. Once we become fully aware on what we are potentially missing out on, losing, I believe it becomes somewhat easier to push ourselves to bring it. We all too often rebel against good common sense with avoidance, opting for more pleasurable things to do with our time. Without discipline, we will forever seek the reward without putting in the work. We must shift our mindsets to realize that rewards only come after the work. We all want to eat the cake, but cake will only serve as momentary gratification. The lasting rewards will be dependent on what we choose to do before we have the cake. Once we recognize the procrastination patterns we individually go through, it will be easier to break those habits. By force feeding ourselves to eat our veggies before the cake, aka doing the work before the reward. If our minds become awash with procrastination, we will go through the motions so many times in our head until we talk ourselves out of doing a bloody thing. We get so distracted of the short-term fulfillment that we lose sight of the end goal. We think happiness in this present moment will keep us satisfied without realization that this moment will pass, and we will be left with a cloud of unfulfilled requirements looming over us. We seek instant gratification, pride, and fulfillment. We begin making irrational decisions that will eventually see us drown in the sea of opportunities potentially lost by surrendering to procrastination. Only we can solve the problems that lie before us by stop listening to the bullshit we constantly tell ourselves when we should be head down, ass up, getting the work done. Idly letting time slip by, monkeying around. Putting off the work until the last moment is the bad organization skill of the procrastinating mind. We do not have to work all day, every day. Quality overrides quantity. We just have to bring our best to each task. Once we find ourselves wandering into that never land of distraction, that comfortable place of avoidance, we must get ourselves back on track. Stop muddling how long it will take with how important it is. Replace bad routines with good routines, leading to greater productivity, greater fulfillment. Giving ourselves time frames, more structure, allowing ourselves no distractions during the time set aside for productivity. Opting for, rather than what's comfortable, for right now, what's imperative for our comfort overall. Ultimately, we all strive for greater fulfillment and comfort. But to reach that, we have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable right now. Why do something today when we can put it off till tomorrow? Mentality can serve as no more than a dampener to our ambitions. Results cannot be obtained without putting in the necessary work to acquire those results. Defeating procrastination is never going to be easy, but as with anything good in life, it ain't ever going to be easy. We always think that we're going to have time, that tomorrow is a given. The fact is, we are all running out of time. Tomorrow is never promised. Facing our own mortality and realizing we can only ever really guarantee right now. Asking ourselves, if we left this world tomorrow, would we leave this world fulfilled or unfulfilled? Life is about being all we can be, giving our all at every opportunity, fulfilling our greatest potential to be all that we can, without denying ourselves of real living, fulfilling our hopes and dreams. We will fall down often, but it's how many times we get up that ultimately counts. Now ask yourself, will the fear you feel today of getting started be any match for the fear of getting to your very last day looking back with regret? Life is so very fragile. By putting things off, we may never experience failure, But by putting things off, we may never know triumph. Failure comes in not trying at all. If you'd like a regular dose of weekly encouragement, then as I said, stop procrastinating. Hit that sub button and the bell right now so you don't miss my next video. I may just be the regular dose of straight shooting you never knew you needed. And while you're here, you may as well throw in a like too. You'll also find my playlist linked below. Next time you find yourself pondering idly, watching life slip by, will you regret all the things you could have done but were too busy in procrastination to get out of your own way? Or will you look back fulfilled knowing win or lose you gave your all to each and every fucking day?
Talk before it's gone for good. Get out of your shell, meet me halfway.